Every single Monday, right, I show up here with the idea that a young girl would watch us and will be inspired to live this thing called life right, make the right decisions, choose the right people, be influenced by the right situations. And so for me, it's always a joy to show up here. This is the dish on MX24. My name is Miriam Mensah. We're about to have a great conversation with a woman I absolutely admire. I always say that this woman, she's doing the unconventional, right? And when you think finance, you're not thinking women. But right now, we run the show. My mother will tell you that there's a revival in every aspect of our lives, from finance to governance, and women are taking over. Well, that is why it is timely that this show is on air on your social media platforms and everywhere you find us. Thank you so much for being a part of this show. I want to say a big thank you to Jamal, Telecel, Betway. Thank you so much for being a part of this great movement. We're grateful. The dish brings you thought-provoking discussions, empowering perspectives, and women's issues, and of course on women's issues. And a focus on global development. Come along as we continue to elevate women's voices, disrupt outdated norms, and drive a real change with progressive women. And I always tell you that the tagline is progressive women. If you want to join us online, the hashtag is hashtag the dish on MX24 and all. Of course, that's on all social media platforms. So connect with us. Whatever conversations you want us to have here that you think will be very, very relevant to this generation and the women in it, please tag us as we get into it. Okay? Thank you so much. Of course, I'm excited. I'm shaking a little bit because this conversation, I was hoping to do it next 10 years. But now I'm here, so I don't have a choice. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my guest for today is Madame Abena Brigidi. Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you too?
I'm very well, thank you. Looking beautiful as always.
Thank you. I guess I'm learning from you. You look
I
stunning.
beg you, God, I beg you.
You look stunning.
Thank you. It's always a blessing and a pleasure to sit with women like you who have been there, done that. I know that you like to be very modest and be like, oh, we're still learning, but you know you're not learning, right? Well, today we're looking at and I decided to tweak it this way today. So that you understand the journey we're on. So from banking halls to boardrooms, the Abena Brigidi story. And I know you're out there. Some young women who want to be like her have actually gone on her social media platforms, tried to hear her story, look at the things she's overcome, and want to be like her. Well, today she's here to share it all with us, especially when it comes to her career. So women, wealth, and leadership, redefining success in finance. Women in the center of the conversation. A powerful dialogue centered on the Abena Brigidi's journey. Okay, so good evening once again, and I am super excited. We're going to start from the career part, right? You spent over a decade in the financial industry. Then you took over leadership, so from working as a staff to owning spaces. Again, I'm not coming to sit here and say that I know all your story. So we're going to get into it. What key lessons have shaped your leadership journey as CEO of NIMED? Again, should we have to get the right pronunciation of your company's name?
NIMED.
So I did well.
Yes, you did.
NIMED
Yes.
Capital. Tell us about the key lessons you've learned that have shaped your leadership on this journey.
Okay, so let me take it this way. I like it from the banking hall
Yes.
to the boardroom.
Yes.
Okay, so my career started with banking. And when I say banking, I mean retail banking. I started Unibank, went to Zenith Bank. So when Zenith started, they poached me. And I started Zenith with them. I kind of shared the story, and I guess I'll share it here today. When I went to do my master's, I had the privilege of working with a financial advisor at HBOS. And then a young lady came up to me, and then she said that she wanted to liquidate her ISA or probably do a transfer into the mortgage account because she had gotten her first home. And the amount overwhelmed me. This lady, she was just a little about 20, 21, and I was well over 20, and I didn't have a bucket to my name. And this lady transferred £80,000 for her first deposit. I was astonished. In fact, I was overwhelmed. that day when I went home, I didn't eat.
Oh.
I did not eat because I took pains to go through her account. And then the most amount she had paid was about £20 a month. And this account had started by her parents, or the parents had started this account for her. And the most amount they had made on a monthly basis was £20,
not 20,000.
£20 each month. And this Isa had grown over the years, and this is how much she had. And that was her first deposit for her house or her home. And I sat back and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done with my life? Because I had worked, and again, my parents didn't also have no savings for me. And my career also did not have anything for me as well. So basically living from hand to mouth. Basically, that was how the journey was. So for me, it was a rude awakening for me. After that awakening, I said to myself that I am never ever going to be this embarrassed again in my life.
Embarrassment that only you was feeling, but it was bigger than anybody.
I was never ever going to be that embarrassed, and I was not going to allow any other woman to be embarrassed that way. So that day I made it a point that I was going to educate whoever wanted to hear me, that it was better to sacrifice your today for your tomorrow. Because that meant that if today you have 20 or 2,000 coming in as a worker, and you are spending everything, your tomorrow certainly is not secured.
There's nothing there.
So I decided to preach it. So going about educating and preaching the good news, saying that it's better to secure your future than to enjoy everything today. In the process, that meant that I needed a one-stop shop. After I educate you, or I preach to you, and I convert you, then I needed a one-stop shop. That would also help you with the instruments that will build the wealth for you. And that's how NIMED came about.
Oh my God.
So after that rude awakening, I didn't go back into retail banking. I decided to get into investment banking and then help people grow wealth, make millionaires out of nothing.
So one experience, you didn't have two, you didn't have three, just one.
Just one. And it was rude.
It was rude because I can imagine at the time, how old were you again?
About 26, 27.
Can you imagine?
And I had nothing. I had nothing to my name.
And it would amaze you. That's the story of...
Probably if I say I had nothing to my name, that would be wrong. I had no valuable assets that was making me money. Because all I had were clothing and shoes. And that's a typical banker. I had so many suits, so many shirts, so many shoes. And these were worthless. They didn't produce no value for me. Rather, every day these products were losing value. And that was all I had. Fashion, nothing.
Looking at after going to study for this job,
look nice and stuff.
All you need right now is to look nice and be smiling in retail banking. Oh my goodness. And one thing that you have to notice on this show is that many of the women that we bring over here are women that find solution to problems that the society is facing. So stay with me. We're going somewhere, okay? Stay with me. So as a woman leading in a highly technical and male-dominated, and a lot of women don't like to hear don't like to hear this male-dominated industry. But do you think the industry you belong to is male-dominated?
No.
No, really.
No. When you take the financial sector in general, you realize that the bottom, the banking halls, the receptions, the investment analysts, and all that you call them, very dominated with women. But as you climb up the ladder, then
it gets lonely at the top.
It gets lonely at the top.
You're the only woman.
And I think for some time I was about... I think after the cleanup, I was about the only female CEO in the fund management sector, and female CEO in the fund management sector. But they're a bit more. And when you bring the whole fund management, asset management, custodians, trustees, then you have a bit more of women, which is very encouraging and exciting. Yes, but at a time in the fund management, I was the only female.
Oh my God.
When you look at it being male dominated, in a way you can say it's male dominated. But I believe that every quality, skill, knowledge that the men do have, the women have equally.
Absolutely.
And even when it comes to management, and we manage funds, we manage people's funds, women do better at it. Women, we take less risk, calculated risk, and then we make sure that things are done well. So I think it's a very interesting field because you kind of have, at every level you find women there. But yes, it's still dominated. It's still dominated.
So having said that, then let's look at some of the challenges you've had to face, just because at this point when you were the only woman, what then did you feel like, what are some of the challenges?
The truth is, in that season, I didn't even have the time to stop, think, and do that reflection to feel I'm lonely. There's so much going on. There was a lot going on. There's so much. There was the clean up. There was DDEP. There was so much going on for me to even sit and say, oh my God, I'm lonely. I didn't have time for the
even enjoy the fact that you were the only woman in the industry at the time.
At that time, it was survival. Okay, so everything you did was to survive. And you didn't have that luxury of sitting to enjoy the moment, to say I'm the only woman. What do I do to bring other women in? No, I was surviving, and I needed to keep my head up to make sure that I'm not drowned. So in that space, I didn't have that luxury.
One of the things that young people today, and me included, find very difficult is saving and investing. We have too many excuses. I'll give you 3 or 1 so that you don't think we have too many excuses. One will be, my money is not enough.
The usual.
Like, they don't pay me much after taking transportation and maybe the one clothes I want to buy in that month. I don't have any money. So really, I cannot invest. Then what to invest in will be the other reason why young people are not investing, because they'll be like, oh, I tried this business, it looks like a lot of people are in it, it might not work, and so we are not ready to take these risks. What practical steps can young people like myself take to start building wealth early?
I think that when it comes to building wealth, the first thing is the mindset. So if you get into that drive of, I want to make money, I want to be wealthy, I want to be liberated financially, then you need to have a change of mind. A change of mind is everything but attitude for everybody. They kind of think it's the affirmations, it's the confessions, but don't think about the attitude. If you look at younger people now, if you take a sample of 10, 8 of them live above their means.
A fact.
So the first question I ask someone who says to me, I don't even have enough for myself, how then do I have the extra to save or invest? And the first thing I ask, do you have an iPhone? And then they, yes.
One that you bought yourself or one that you bought for you?
Anyhow. If someone bought it for you and you really want to start something for yourself, you know what to do. You could sell that and use that as a seed money to invest. If you look at the Brazilian hair, the clothing they're wearing, the shoes, then you ask yourself, is it really a lack issue? Is it really not enough? Or is your priorities? So if you want to make wealth and you change your mind, it becomes attitudinal. Attitudinal in the sense that you need to make sure that you're living within your means and have prioritized investment. And secondly, you're consistent at it. So if you say that you want to make wealth, you want to change your life from living from hand to mouth, You want to make something out of yourself. You want to make yourself proud. You want to be liberated. You want to have control. You want to have control over the decisions that you make. I'll tell you this, a lot of women don't make the decisions they want to make. Most decisions they make are influenced from what they can get from somewhere. And if you want to be independent and not want to make a decision because of what you will get from somewhere, then of course you need to make that conscious effort to liberate yourself. If you don't want no man to lord over you, hey, I'm not saying that you should be arrogant or not be submissive to your husband or anything, but to be in a space where you have control over your space, that means that you need to make sure that you get that mind shift to liberate yourself.
And once that happens, whatever it takes to get to that end, you in fact, you've done 50% of the work if once your mind...
Exactly. And you see, for me, I'll use myself. When this lady rudely slapped me in my face, what I did was I cut down on socializing or social things that will cost money. So for instance, if I would have gone on a social meetup with friends, and then in the UK you would have to all share, I wouldn't go because I was saving that money. And I wouldn't even eat 3 square meals. So the restaurant that I would go to for lunch, I wouldn't go there again. I rather would just make myself a sandwich or probably make a sandwich from home. Okay. So then I decided to make sure that I was then looking at my expenses against my expenditure, my revenue, what's coming. So my expense against my income.
Your income,
So if now my income is say 1,000, because I've made conscious effort to now invest, I know that as part of my expenditure, investment is part of it. And people kind of make expenditure and then they leave their investments out. And I ask myself, then what's the security for tomorrow? So this is the analysis I normally would give. If you have an orange, or I give you an orange today, and that's the only orange in this world, and you eat this orange and throw the seeds away, is there any guarantee that we're going to have another orange?
No.
The only way we are guaranteed to have another orange to eat next season is when the seeds that you ate from, you planted. And that's what's happening. People get their income, their salaries, and they eat everything, forgetting that in the salary there's a seed. And this is the seed that is to secure your future. Secure you when you lose your job, secure you when the unexpected happen. But we tend to eat everything because we are thinking about our luxury today, we are thinking about our comfort today, and forgetting that in the future, that is when you need the most comfort. When you are retired, when you, God forbid, you're on medications, when you really need the money for that retirement, that's when you really need that comfort. So you are better on struggling today and then having a very comfortable future, retirement tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. Sacrificing your luxury or your comfort today for comfort tomorrow. Again, I mean, there are young people that today have been hit by very, very hard situations. And I give an example. So a young girl is in the university. She's on a journey, comes from a very, when you look at the ladder,
class.
Below that.
Below the
middle class. And then she gets pregnant. No investments, nothing. She's been working, but more wigs, more clothes. There's nothing to go back home to.
My kind of story.
You're stuck. You're stuck somewhere you didn't even plan for. But if peradventure you thought to put something down, then you would have something to fall on and then decide what the next action would be. This is The Dish on MX24. My name is Miriam Mensah. I'm having a conversation with Madame Abena Brigidi, and ladies and gentlemen, it's getting super, super exciting. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the conversation continues right here. Do not move. We'll be right back after this. You're welcome back to The Dish here on MX24. My name is Miriam Mensah. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the show that empowers that woman to be the best version of herself, and I'm excited to be your host. Still on this conversation, and guys, I know you've carried your pen and your paper, right? If you haven't done that yet, open that note and start writing. Well, how would you assess the current investment culture in Ghana? So especially among women, and because again today we've seen women decide that we're taking our future into our own hands and we're planning for that. But it's different situations. Recently, there's a movie out called The Bad Influencer. And in that movie, a lot of lessons. So if you haven't watched The Bad Influencer, please go and watch it. A young lady that made very, very bad decisions. Very, very bad decisions because she wanted to take her future into her whole own hands. She was a single mother. Now, when you look at this story, it is not like we've not seen before. It's just like many stories we've seen. Investment culture in Ghana, especially amongst women. What would you say about it now in 2025?
I think that if you had asked me this question maybe in 2012 till probably about 2020, I would have said it was work in progress and we're kind of steadily growing. And it was quite impressive until, again, the unexpected happened, DDP and all that. Yeah. Having said that, I think that this year in particular is really doing well now. We have a number of women in investments now. If you ask me here at NIMED, I don't know if because I'm a female, I'm kind of probably attracted to more females.
More females.
And normally it's not like that. As a female, you should attract more men. Yeah, more men. Yes. But I think that if you look at the database, we have more women in investment here in NIMED Capital than we have in men. I don't know why the statistics is like that for me. I also kind of drive the female communities around me to again invest. So I also have a group or an investment group I call the Visionaire. And these are women that have come together, and then all what we want to do is to make sure that we are financially liberated in the next 10 years. So we kind of invest and then we educate ourselves, and then yes, we're going. So I kind of probably several initiatives around me that kind of push women to invest. So if you ask me here, about a chunk of my clients are women.
So we're steadily growing back again.
Yes.
After all the setbacks. The wahalas, we're back again and we're on track.
Yes.
So the future looks bright.
It does. It does. And I think that on this note, I would say that it's very important that women get their finances right. You know, we talk a lot about women empowerment. There's no empowerment without financial muscle.
No empowerment at all.
There's no empowerment. So it's not a kind of a mouth talk or just lip service. And the action is really liberating yourself financially. When you liberate yourself financially, you're empowered. And you're empowered in such a way that everything you decide to do today, you'll be able to do it. Guess what? If you're a woman and you're financially liberated and you have this beautiful idea that you believe that would make you millions, today you go ahead because you have the funding to fund it. If your child wants to go to university and decides to go to Harvard, hallelujah.
You got the money to do that.
You got the money and you just pay for that. If you decide to see a doctor in the most expensive hospital, you do that because you can fund it. But we don't want a situation where women are not able to give their children the best education because they cannot afford. They are not able to seek best medical opportunities for them because they don't have the capacity to pay for that. To liberate yourself, meaning financially capable of being able to support the decisions that you make.
You people, are you getting the message? Because right after this, I'm signing 20 of you up here at NIMED.
That'll be fantastic.
To start investing. We're going to talk about how to start investment here at NIMED for the young women, because we have a grateful worship. Young women coming to us. How can I do this? Enough of the relationship. Now let's make money. Okay. Now let's talk about mistakes. Okay. Financial mistakes. You're used to. You've heard a lot. Let's talk about financial mistakes that a lot of young women make here.
Okay. So I think that one of the major mistakes that people make is not investing with purpose or investing with an objective. So if I say that, let me explain. For instance, Amma just comes in and says, I want to invest without no purpose, no objective. So they just put in money. Again, that can help you for the unexpected. That's fantastic. At least you made the move. But the right way to do it is investing with an objective. So I'm investing for the next 5 years because I want to be able to take my child to this school. I'm investing for the next 10 years because I'm planning for my retirement. I'm investing for this money for 2 years because this is my fallback. Should in case my car breaks down, should in case I'm not well, should in case the emergency happens, this is going to be my emergency fund. People kind of lump everything together and they will dip into that investment for other things that they did not plan for. So one of the main mistakes is that people invest without planning or objective.
Yes. So that is like an open bank that if I need the next beautiful wig on social media, well, I have this money, so I can just touch it and move on.
Yeah, so can you imagine that if you're planning or you are saving or investing towards you going back to school in the next 3 years, what will let you take the money out? Would that wig you really want to get, would you want to take that money from that investment account to go and buy the wig? No. Because in your mind, in 2 years, you're going back to school. And the value you are going to get in that account is for the payment of your fees. And it's not negotiable.
It's true. Indeed. There's this thing that I keep hearing around, and every time I hear it in a different tone or in a different language, it still resonates. So you're doing things as a woman without a purpose. So you're here, you want to be noticed, but for what? You want to make money, but for what? So what is your what? Is what she's advising us to have a what and a why.
That's it.
What we're using the finances for, and then why we start this investment in the first place. That will guide us in making the best decisions around those finances that we see showing up in our investments if we start. And we're about to start at NIMED. Okay. Away from that, let's get back into other areas of your life. So you're a woman of faith. You also are very passionate about women empowerment, especially in the financial sector. But whilst you're doing that, you're also polishing it with, you need to know why. And you keep giving us why. Every time I listen to you, since you can't find your why, Madam Abena Brigidi will give you why you need to have that money. And I think she's done like twice here already on this show. So again, like I said, you're very passionate about women empowerment and financial independence. What is your message to women who fear taking bold financial decisions?
You see, life is risky. So if you fear, the fear of risk does not allow you to invest or decide that you want to liberate yourself financially, that same fear will put you in poverty.
True.
Okay. So this is how I explain risk. Even moving from your house to your workplace is very risky than investing. Because from point A to point B, the possibility that you won't get to point B is enormous. Okay, so the key here is calculative risk. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Monitor it. Follow up on the investment. People send money to institutions and they don't even know how the fund is doing. They don't monitor. They don't have statements. They don't know what the fund is about. Nothing. So my advice to you, if you fail to take the risk, that same risk will put you in poverty, in hardship. It will let you do things that you're not meant to do, and then the outcome would be worse than you were anticipating. For that reason, you didn't do.
True. So finally, before I go on my first break, and probably the only break because the conversation is too sweet, I don't want to go on break, but it's very important to note that in your why, you need to understand that if you do not take that decision, you're about to get into the biggest mess. The things you fear will happen to you, because we've heard stories of young girls, in fact, even older women, make very, very terrible decisions that they can't put words to explain what they've done just because of this thing called money. And so it's important that you be financially stable or even free, so to speak.
And you see, the worst thing is that it's not just even the younger ones. For the younger ones, I keep saying that there's a bit of room
to make those mistakes.
But for the older ones, there's no room.
Can
you imagine if you are 45
and you
don't have anything to your day? You can't imagine if you are.
God.
So the worst, if I'm 18 years today and I'm listening to this conversation, I'm privileged. But again, if you're probably like 45, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of thoughts, adrenaline rushing down, because
like,
then,
when do I start?
Exactly. Where do I start? How do I start? And then if you are older, that means that you even need to put a bit more than you would have done 20 years. So for instance, somebody at 18 could have the luxury of probably investing 20 Ghana cedis each month.
Yeah.
And in the next 10 years could be a millionaire.
Yeah. You don't have that luxury.
But you don't have. Maybe at 45, you probably would need to do 1,000 Ghana cedis each month to be able to compensate for the wasted years. I call it wasted years.
It is wasted years.
Yes.
It is wasted.
You probably wouldn't even do more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even do
Oh my
more.
God. Did you feel that? You have to feel it, my sister, because it does not look
So the earlier the better.
The earlier the better. The earlier the better. That's why we're catching them young and making sure they're making the best decisions. This is The Dish on MX24. My name is Miriam Mensah. I'm having a conversation with Madame Abena Brigidi. And ladies and gentlemen, it's getting super, super exciting. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the conversation continues right here. Do not move. We'll be right back after this. You're welcome back to The Dish here on MX24. My name is Miriam Mensah. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the show that empowers that woman to be the best version of herself, and I'm excited to be your host, right? I want to say a big thank you to Jamal, to you, who always shows up, to Betway as well, for holding us down. We're grateful. Now, I've been speaking to Madame Abena Brigidi, and many things have been said. So if you're just joining in, you made the right choice, but you're late. So you know what to do. Jump onto our social media handles. We'll give you updates on. In fact, the entire interview will be on YouTube. So make sure to jump on there and listen to the entire conversation. We're going to get into the fact that this incredible woman is not walking alone. She gets backing. She gets strong backing. And you know on this show that it's only Jesus babies and, our friends that come here. And so this one, she's not only a Jesus baby, she's a Jesus woman. She's a woman of faith. And also we want to delve into her philosophy and her impact as well. And so we're going to get into that. I said do you like the Jesus baby tag or Jesus woman tag? Which one?
I like the Jesus baby.
Yeah. I
want the Jesus baby. I remember when we set up the Visionaire Women's Fund, Women's Club. It's an investment club. Yeah. And then when we're doing the introductions, I first went on. I'm like, my name is Abena Brigidi. I'm a Jesus baby. And I realized that every other lady that came did not fail to add the Jesus baby. Yes. And I was like, oh my God. It's awesome to attract Jesus babies. And then also know that we're working hard, that at the end, when he shows up, he will say that, oh, you faithful servant, you did what was expected of you, well done. And again, that is my most treasure, something that I'm really looking forward to, that day comes and I'm not left out.
Listen, I'm lost for words. It's really beautiful to see women whom you would tout as very successful also have a very, very strong background when it comes to their spirituality. And you are one woman who does not mince words when it comes to your position as a woman of faith. Tell me about how you landed yourself in this position. One would say that one day I was sleeping in my bed and I heard God say, Miba, I've called you. And it's, it's really exciting to hear. What is your story on this journey of faith?
Okay, so probably I was lucky because the Bible says that many are called, but few are chosen. That means that it's not everybody that God chooses. So I was lucky that God chose. And he chose me through a family. My parents were Christians, so I grew up in a Christian home.
Right.
I grew up with a mother who was or probably like a Jesus mother.
Yeah.
Okay, if I'm a Jesus baby, then she's a Jesus
mother.
Okay, so she taught us the basics, and I was lucky to also find myself in an Assemblies of God church.
Okay.
And there we learned the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had a very good foundation where I went through missionette, through joy, through women's ministry, and then I was a Sunday school teacher as well. And in Assemblies of God, when we say Sunday school teacher, it's not like teaching the kids. It's more or less like Bible class before the service starts. So I had a very good background. And again, when you find Christ for yourself, it's so interesting because he takes you through a journey. There are times when he will break you, and out of you being broken, he builds you up, and then you know him for yourself. So sometimes when people tell me that, oh God, I want to know God more, I say that you should also be prepared for it, because knowing him more is through an experience. Him revealing himself to you is through a process. And that process will make you know who he is. So I'm so sure that, Marianne, how you know God is not how I know God. Some people will know God as a healer. But somebody also will be so confident that God is a provider, because that is how they know God. And knowing God is so personal, and this will come through the process he takes you through. He will break you, and in the molding, you will know him. So I went through my phase of breaking, and I'm sure he's still taking me through the process. We are not there yet. So he's still taking us through it. And I tell people that when you are privileged to be part of a community that loves God, find mentors in them, look up to people that, not just even in your church, around, outside, listen to tapes, listen to others, share the word of God, and build yourself. But it's very important that you get mentors, spiritual fathers, and all that, because all that is part of the journey. And you learn, because you see, he speaks through men, and he works through men. So an encounter with Jesus would not necessarily mean meba, but it would be with an encounter you have with your fellow human that portrays Jesus.
Yes.
Or that reveals Jesus in the process, in the conversation. So we might have a conversation today, and one word you might probably say will tell me really what Jesus is. And that is me, how I get to know Jesus.
I told you, if you're not ready, don't watch this show, but you have to watch it anyway. So like, come prepared, unprepared, broken, because when you spoke about the brokenness, I think it's an aspect of the journey of faith that people are not ready for. And so once we get there, we're like, God, why me?
You said you wanted to know him,
and he says, I'll show you how to know me.
And he said he was going to let you know him. How would God let you know him if you don't get sick and he heals you? Are you
How
just
would you know?
How would you know that he's
How
a
will
healer?
you know?
You would just have heard it.
Yeah.
But your faith is built when you were sick and he healed you. So next time, he said that he when he puts you in a situation, then he gives you the grace to overcome it. When he gives you the grace to overcome it, then you then becomes the evangelist in that area.
Building
So
capacity.
when I am sick and I'm healed, when you are sick, I can confidently tell you that I know a man who can heal because he healed me. Not because I have read that he heals, but I am telling you that this man can heal because I've been healed.
Yes.
Okay, and it becomes your ministry.
It is.
It does.
So there's this thing I say when I find myself in very difficult situations, that God, I know this is hard, but I trust you.
That's it.
And every time when I say this, it always ends with a tear, because I'm like, but you know that it's hard to trust you in this particular situation. But you said that you would do it. So I am trusting you. By the way, I have actually told people that I am a Jesus baby.
That's right.
And I have told them that you can do this.
That's my mantra. You know, sometimes when I'm going through it, I'm like, God, this one is on you. Because everybody's going to say that I failed. And then they know that I say that you're my backing. So if I failed, where were you? Come through. If you don't, it's you, it's not me.
It's not me. Not be me go top the shame, it's your shame.
It's you. It's not me.
My friend said, maybe you like to blackmail God.
No, but it's the truth, because you see, if I tell everybody that I'm a Jesus baby, it is in him that I am moving and I have my being. And I've told everyone. So when I fail, he's failed. Because I'm not no longer myself.
It's on you.
I'm in Christ, and Christ is in me. So it's a show.
Goodness, guys. I think we need a part 2 of this conversation.
So soon? Are we done?
No, we're not done. But let's talk about your personal philosophy and impact. Okay, so as an author and speaker, how do you balance your corporate responsibilities with your mission to educate? And you call it a calling. It's a calling to change the narrative when it comes to women's finances. How are you able to balance this?
I think it still comes to planning. Balancing centers on planning and also delegating.
Oh, I learned that this year, right? I don't know how to do it.
So I'm not a superwoman.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't intend to be one.
God.
So I kind of delegate a lot. So when it comes to corporate life, we kind of have people who do what, and I kind of drive it. So I delegate a lot.
Yeah.
When it comes to family life, I ask for help. I can't be at home and still make money.
True.
So I get help.
Okay.
So balancing is knowing where you fall short and asking for help to balance it.
I wanted to do this connection right now, if it's possible. Can you say that being a woman who's on a journey to become financially free, you can do that being a woman of faith, and it is connected? So I'll say this. 2 days ago, I was having a conversation with a friend whom I haven't seen in church for a while. She was driving me to somewhere around American House, and I said, "Young lady, where have you been? If I told you to come and take me to go and buy a checker, you come and take me." But she was like, "Mimi, I'm doing." She started Uber business. She started driving Uber, and I asked her, "So you don't make it to church again? I don't see you around." She was like, "Mimi, God understands me, but sometimes when you're about to start saying things," and I picked a seed from there. Obviously, I cannot stop going to church. I cannot stop spending time in the presence of the Lord. But she said something. You have to focus this job the way it is. You have to focus on it entirely to understand how to make money out of it. Other than that, you cannot make money. But when I got off, I said, "God, you see what you've done? You see this girl." Oh, I actually did say that. I said, "God, you see what you've done? This young girl has to go and look for this money, and now she has to focus all her attention on making this money, forgetting that she can trust you to help her through the process." So do you tell me, was I wrong when I went to attack God like this?
So you see, whilst you were talking, I was smiling.
Yes.
And you see, there's this dichotomy that's happening, and then a lot of people are having these conversations. If you're looking for me on a Tuesday morning, you will only find me after 12.
Okay.
That is because I'm a Tuesday born, and I dedicate that time to God. That morning is not negotiable. Even if you give me 10 million, I won't come. And I'm saying this on a national TV. I won't come. Though I make some cases, but I try my possible best that on Tuesday mornings you won't find me in the office. I only get into the office after 12. On Wednesday evenings, I still have church. And that one, I would go. And then Sundays. The reason is because, for me, I've made some commitments with God. And when I'm doing too many things that are not concerned or connected to God, I feel like I've left him out. I also feel like when I'm doing too many things and I can make time so example, let me make it clearer. If you have an appointment to go to the American Embassy at 7, irrespective of your Uber business, irrespective of the client you're meeting, irrespective of whatever is scheduled for that morning, the fact that they were given that appointment, you would go. Because you find that as priority at that time. Absolutely. At that time, I need to go for the visa. True. And you will go. Yeah. So for me, priority is everything that I am, like David said. Who am I that you are mindful of? All that I have, God gave me.
God gave me.
Everything that Abena, I enjoy the peace of mind, good sleep. You know, people take good sleep for granted. Bible says, to them that he loves, he gives them good sleep. So good sleep, everything that I enjoy, God gave me. Forget about wealth. Yes, he's the one who gives wealth. You understand? So for me, those dates I have with him, I don't. So I don't know. Maybe in their minds they don't have dates with God. But for me, I like you set up. I'm courting him. He's my husband now. So you know, I kind of have dates with him, and these are my dates with him. And I don't take them for granted because that's where I feed. That's my fuel. I know we pray at home, but we should also not forsake the gathering of the saints. So it's also important that your friend, maybe my advice to her, money is good, but money without Christ is useless.
It's useless. Yeah.
You can get everything in the world, and without Christ it's useless. But when you find Christ, every other thing comes together. We've had, you see, these things sometimes when we say it, then it's like you are condoning people being lazy, and there are a lot of talks about it. But there's a way you can, if you really want to make that date. So when I come in at 12, I probably know that I have to stay a bit longer. Because I didn't start the day early. True, so I'm going to stay longer to finish up with what I'm going to do. So if you're an Uber driver and you are not able to do that, then you probably might be able to do some other, or probably if during the day you did from 10 to 12 church, then you know that you have 2 extra hours to add on to be able to make up for whatever you have to do. So the thing is, for me, there's no excuse. If you want to make time, you will.
Yeah. Now let's talk about NIMED a little bit. So my young people are impressed right now. They are excited. They want to know how to start. Now I want to recommend to them, if you want to start an investment today, you want the best in the market, especially for a young girl who understands what it is that you're dealing with. She knows your monthly cycle and the money that you need for that. So she knows and understands your journey. What advice would you give to them?
Okay, before the advice. So if you are a younger person, and by younger person, I'm probably saying somewhere from 18 above.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you want to start investment. People think that you need about 100,000, a lump sum to be able to start investment. You don't. You can start investing with a minimum of 20 Ghana cedis. So mutual funds are collective investment schemes. So these are funds where Akuya, Ama, Kweju, Ya, Okwesi, every other person comes together with the little they have, put it in a pot. It then becomes a bigger pot, and then it goes out to invest, and then we share the interest that comes on. So these are mutual funds. So with a minimum of 20 Ghana cedis, you're able to participate. And at NIMED, we have 2 mutual funds. One is geared towards long term, and then the other short term. So if your investment objective, like we spoke earlier, is within a short term frame, then you are better off with a NIMED fixed income fund. If you're looking at a long term, then you're better off with a lifetime unit trust. So depending on the objective, again, then we'll be able to advise which one you'll be able to. But you should know that at a minimum of 20 Ghana cedis, you can start.
You can start today. And it's really exciting because you at school right now who wants to start an investment, who wants to go and shock someone at the bank like it was done, Miriam Brigidi, but that got her to start this business. I think you can start today.
Yes.
You can start today. The year's about to, come to an end, and I'm sure you're thinking, hey, in my next semester, no, that business you're doing on campus, that small side work you go to do after school, can actually get you a better life. And so that is what that was the objective. That's our objective for this interview, and I'm glad that we were able to exhaust every part of it.
But Miriam,
yes,
if you permit
please, you're permitted.
And let me give some clarity on this. Sometimes people say that if you have money, set up a business with it than rather invest. It's good, fantastic. It's my prayer that everybody becomes an entrepreneur. Everybody's able to work for themselves.
Yes.
Okay, so that's fantastic.
Yes.
But even if you work for yourself, you still need a fallback position. Cash is king. So if you put money into a side hustle, you still will need to have a fallback. Because don't forget that out of the side hustle, you still will need to invest with an objective of expansion. You still need to invest with an objective of probably some other issues that pop up in the business. So it's good to have a side hustle. It's equally important to also have an investment.
Yeah.
Because if today you have stock of say 200,000 Ghana cedis and you need emergency of 50,000 Ghana cedis because probably I was going to say boiler, but a lot of people don't have a boiler. Because unfortunately somebody hit your car and ran away and you need to go fix the car. You can't sell all the stock within one day, but you have an investment you can lean on, which was probably the 50,000 and you can pick it up. So it's equally good to be an entrepreneur and do your side hustle,
and
but
still invest.
Equally you should also have some investment for your fallback.
Absolutely. And then finally, when you look back at your journey so far, what would you say is your proudest accomplishment, and what legacy do you hope to leave in Ghana's financial landscape? This is my final question. My producers can arrest.
Okay.
Ooh, I like the pause.
So I think that it's probably my staff. Yes, the people I work with. I'm very fortunate to have good people to work with. And for an entrepreneur, people pray for financing and money to start business. If you ask me, the first thing you should think of or pray about is the people you work with, because they make the business and they make your journey, or make you have these success stories. And then even the impact, recounting the impacts that you would have, it's still the same people. So for me, surviving DDP, surviving cleanup, probably my greatest achievement, because I had equally good competitors who were amazing, understand the business, were doing good business, and unfortunately they didn't survive it. So for me, my survival was the people I worked with who were diligent, who were open to learn, who would do all what it takes for us to survive. So for me, if you ask me what my greatest assets are, is the people I work with. And the impact that everybody, female, male, walks about knowing that today is secured, but my tomorrow is not. So if I want to secure it, then I have to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow. So the impact is that everybody, like my tagline says, investing for people like you. Like you means the hairdresser. These days they say stylist.
Yes, hairstylist.
Hairstylist.
Designer.
Designer. Like you mean the mechanic. Like you mean the professor. Like you mean the pastor. Like you mean anywhere you find yourself, whether you are in corporate, wherever you find yourself. Like you.
Thank you. This after this, I can now go and put my billboard up that I've arrived in life, because I have just had a great conversation with Madam Brigidi.
Brigidi.
This has been a great conversation. Thank you
Thank you for
spending
having me.
time with us. Someone wants to look for you on social media. How do we connect with you?
Oh, the investment queen, the only investment queen.
One pair.
One pair.
One pair.
So I think Abena Brigidi on all media platforms,
Yes.
social media platforms. Yes, and you can also reach me on Abena Brigidi Gmail.
Okay.
Or abna.brigidi@nimedcapital.com.
Awesome.
Yes.
Once you send an email, she's a businesswoman. She responds
And you
to
can
emails.
always find me
Here.
in the office.
Yes.
On the ambassadorial. Hey, we are no longer so on the Boundary Road.
Yes.
On the Boundary Road.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not too far from American House.
Yes.
And so just find NIMED, and once you put inside Google Map NIMED Capital Limited, you will be at the office and get that investment going. Thank you so much for sitting with us. This has been a great conversation. Thank you. It was on very short notice, but she made time, which means that she's really ready to impact her generation. And young girls like me, we are humbled to have you in our generation, and we pray that you continue to grow and glow in Christ.
Amen.
Now to you out there, thank you for being a part of this wonderful show every single Monday as we come here to share nuggets of wisdom that will help us be the best version of ourselves. My name is Miriam Mensah. Connect with us on all social media platforms, MX24GH on all social media platforms. Don't forget to connect with us as we learn and grow together. Also want to say big thank you to Germo, Telecel and Betway for holding us down. They say that, listen, they're keeping us together so that you can continue to learn. Big thank you to Germo for keeping the home clean and safe for every single person. Now, for the best network in Africa, in Ghana right now, Telecel is your go-to. They're giving bonuses on data, on calls every Wednesday, dear. Almost say, once you grab that Wednesday and you are in it, well, you can get a bonus, 25% bonus on any data bundle you buy. And so that's coming in from Telecel. And Betway has amazing promos every single month for you. Jump on that and thank me later. Now, to my team here, I want to say big thank you to Isaac and the team, Teddy, and of course, my FO, who likes to frustrate me. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. We're back again next week with another exciting and impactful episode. See you again.